All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I am super excited because we have an awesome guest on the line this week with an awesome story and an awesome topic. And even cooler, she's also a fellow Australian like me. She's from Queensland. So just in advance, my apologies for kicking your ass in sport every year all the time. But it's, nothing personal. We're a bigger state, cooler state. It is what it is. A little bit about this person. She worked in corporate for a very long time and was very successful at it. She accidentally ended up in online coaching, but don't know how that happens, but I'm sure we'll find it out. And now she's generating about $1 million a year off her membership, which is super impressive. And now she helps busy women build and scale their memberships without the hustle. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Ms. Toni Bache. Toni, how are you?
Hi, Jono. I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. Just pronounce that surname again for me.
Bache.
Bache. Okay. So I got it right.
You did. You nailed it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Toni, I like to start all my podcasts off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Have you got one for us?
I sure do. I think probably for the last 5 or 6 years, I've said the exact same thing every single morning to myself, which is the purpose of my life is to live vivaciously in every moment and inspire others to do the same.
Love it. What was that? I missed that word. The vivacious. What does that mean? I'm actually not aware of that word.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like energetically, positively, spirited, sprightly. Yeah. Like that kind of, vibe is, I guess, I don't know the Oxford Dictionary definition, but that's the vibe that comes with it.
Love it. Well, I've known you for about 5 minutes and I'm feeling that vibe already. So you're definitely doing that job. All right. Now, Toni, you're in a very impressive position. I'm pretty sure every single person listening to this, you're kind of the dream. They're like, hold on, this woman's making $1 million a year of a membership. I want to do the same. Teach me how to do it. I'm going to hand it over to you here. What I'd like to start with is your story first. Kind of start where you want to start. What were you doing? How'd you get into this online course space? Take as long as you want to take. And yeah, let us know a little bit of background. What did you do? What do you do now? How'd you get into it?
Yeah, for sure, Jono. So as you mentioned at the start, I kind of had a corporate career and I loved it. Like I wasn't one of those corporate haters, and I quickly climbed the corporate ladder, and I was a global vice president for a Fortune 500 company, and
Wow.
Had the like ideal life. But I always felt like this probably wasn't the words I was using at the time, but in reflection, that like I was made for more. I was made for more than just like sitting behind a desk working a 9 to 5. I was made for more than like sitting in boardrooms and just affecting a small number of people. Like I wanted to multiply that and help a lot more people. And I'd always had a pretty strong entrepreneurial spirit. Like I'd always had little side businesses along the way, but never, even though I was a qualified coach and like I coached all the time in my job, I'd never sort of had anyone pay me outside of the corporate world for coaching. And so it was kind of funny because I went through a phase where I feel like sometimes the word's a bit overglorified, but it's the easiest way to explain it is I was almost burnt out in corporate because I was traveling, at least 50% of the time, if not more. I was working crazy hours. It was a lot, and I got sick, like actually sick, but I wasn't getting better. And I think I wasn't getting better because I just wasn't giving my body the time to heal. And I'd been going to the doctors and they couldn't figure out, like, they're like, oh, you've got an ear infection, you got this, you got that, but they couldn't kind of get on top of it. And I was like, stuff this, I'm going to figure it out for myself. And there were certain things that I knew, like if I exercise more, I'll feel better, and those sorts of things. So I thought, I keep having these goals to exercise, but I like want to go to the gym and I want to like hustle hard at the gym and like sweat it out for an hour. And so that would seem like really big and overwhelming. So I would say, okay, I'm going to do it on Monday. And then Monday was a busy day. Okay, Tuesday. And then it would continue on until it would get to Friday. And I hadn't been to the gym. So I was like, oh, well, next week. So I'm like, I'm going to break that. And I'm going to set myself the goal of exercising every day for 30 days. But the exercise could just be like 5 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be this big intensive thing. I don't have to go to the gym. I can do it in my pajamas if I want to, but I just have to move my body for 5 minutes. So I did it for 30 days and I was like, well, that didn't suck. And I was starting to feel better. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do it for 90 days. And then anyway, it ended up becoming 365 days. And
wow.
got to the end of the year and I was like, wow, that's a pretty big achievement. And my husband said to me, you should write a blog about this. And I'm like, I've never written a blog in my life. I didn't have a blog. So I sat down before work and I bashed out this blog, and he put it on. He's a runner and he had this like dodgy little running blog that only friends and family read, right? So, no one was going to see it. It was more just like memorializing this blog. And so it went up, and then somehow, I still to this day do not know exactly how, but it got picked up by Ariana Huffington's publication Thrive, and it kind of went viral. I don't know how many people have to see it for something to be considered viral, but a lot more people than what I thought would ever see it saw it. And so I, had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm like, this is an opportunity, because I had all of these people reaching out to me, like they were tracking me down on social media and saying, how do I do the same? And I'm like, well, I'm certified as a life coach. I'm certified as a business coach. I've done all this coaching. I've done all this self-development work myself. Like, I'm not telling them I'm an expert, but I can tell them what I did, and I can use some of the skills I've got to help them. So I decided to create an online course, but I knew nothing about online courses, literally nothing. So if you're new to Jono's podcast and you're like, oh, I don't really know much about online courses, I was there. And so I literally just said, hey, I've decided I'm going to do this like course. If you want to come along, like, here's how you can join. And I was a big girl. I got myself an email provider and a website. That was all I spent money on. I think it cost me $50. And I didn't know much about online marketing back then. So I just used my personal profile to promote it. I didn't spend $1 on ads. I didn't have any fancy anything. And I just kind of had a landing page and my socials, and then it kind of sent them emails. And so my course was every day for 30 days, I would tell them how I created this habit of, exercising every day, and how you could apply that to all of these other things in your life. And about halfway through the course, which was literally, I would just write them an email every day and be like, this is what you need to do. And halfway through, they were like, I asked for feedback, and they're like, this is amazing. This is transformational. But it would be better if you did video. And I was like, okay. So then halfway through, I started doing video. And so then that was my first online course that was created. Now, the funny part is, Jono, that you'll think this is funny, but you've got to know, like, I didn't have any context of online courses back then. And so I got 300 people that bought my first course.
Wow.
Without any marketing spend, just personal profile. I didn't realize that was good.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was normal. I'm like, oh, that just must be what happens. Like, this is normal. But from there, I had great testimonials. So I kind of did version 2 and version 3. And after a while of doing it, I got a lot better at it. I improved, my courses were better, but that's when I realized I had only taught them like one little piece of the puzzle. And I actually saw the potential to teach them so much more, and also help them with like ongoing accountability and those sorts of things. So I put a post kind of in my alumni group and said, hey, I'm thinking about this thing where, like, how would you want to like to work with me on a monthly basis as a group, and we can, focus on these things and blah, 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 blah. And a whole bunch of people were like, yes. And I was like, okay, cool. And then, like, I thought I'd created memberships. Like, I thought I was the first person to be like, wow, I wasn't, but I was like so naive that that's literally what I thought. And so, but from there, I got a little bit OCD about, I can get very intense about things sometimes, and I kind of go all in. And so I went all in on learning every single thing I could about being an amazing coach, and about being an amazing online business owner, and everything I could about online courses and memberships, and use that to refine my own business, which became very successful, which meant that in turn, a lot of people started coming to me for advice around how they could actually build their online courses and memberships. And over time, that just kept evolving and evolving, where initially I was helping them one-on-one. And then, of course, I quickly ran out of capacity to do one-on-one. And so then I started doing small group. And then I did a membership about creating, it was kind of broader, like online courses and memberships and all of those sorts of things. And then I really realized that my sweet spot is memberships, because not only because I've done a lot of it myself and I know a lot about it, but I'm really passionate about recurring revenue, and I'm really passionate about the lifestyle business you can create around having an online membership with recurring revenue. And so that's where I kind of found my sweet spot. And now I've got a low ticket membership that helps people, set up their own memberships and grow them and scale them without sacrifice. And then the same, I have another membership that is for people that have really already started that growth curve and they're ready to seriously scale their memberships. And I love it. I'm literally living my dream life now, but it's kind of, that funny journey to how you get places when you never really expect to get there.
Wow. That's amazing story. Super inspirational. I'm motivated hearing that, let's break that down because some really cool things going on. One question beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Everything had to ask this. And I don't know if you can answer this. Approximately how many hours a day would you work?
Now?
Yeah.
So now I have 10 hours a week where I need to be like on and with clients or
like calls and
stuff with clients. Yeah. So calls and prep for calls.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, it can fluctuate a lot by the week. So some weeks, like next week, I'm heading off to Hamilton Island and there will be no additional work outside of that. Actually, I've cut back on a few of my calls. But, other weeks, if I'm like, re-looking at a whole marketing strategy, I might spend, an entire day like just brainstorming that. But I would say on average, I wouldn't work any more than 20, 25 hours a week on average, but there'll be some weeks where it's the bare minimum and other weeks where I'm like going more in, but I kind of just, it's the joy of having your own business is you get to set your own deadline. So I kind of just lean in where I feel energetically. Like the last few months I wasn't well. And so I stepped back and didn't do much, but then now I'm like all in and doing more. And that's just what I do energetically, is listen to my body.
Well, I think it's a good, that's my definition of an ideal business as well. Because I think there's a lot of people in the online space that may be making a lot of money, maybe more than you. But if they're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours, it's kind of like, I mean, each to their own, maybe they, prefer to work and they like making money, and that's fine. But I think the sign of a good business, if it can run as much without you as possible. So in your case, great, 10 hours, got to do some work, like 10 hours a week. You got to check some, do some calls, check some email, whatever, it's got to be done. And then after that, it's up to you. Maybe you do want to drive. Maybe like, you know what? I want to make more money. I'm going to put in 30, 40 hours. Or if you're like, no, I want to just kick back and spend time with my partner and my family or whatever. So I think that's awesome.
And I would just say as well that, up until I launched my membership that was helping people scale, I was doing a lot less. Like it was somewhere between 2 and 5 hours a week that I was working, but I consciously decided, not just for financial reasons, but for like fulfillment reasons, that I wanted to do more and help more people. And it was a really hard decision, because I'm like, by doing this, I'm actually like cornering myself into working more, but I was so passionate about doing it that was the right decision for me. But I think, you nailed it, where you've got to figure out like what works for you. Design your life before you design business. Design your life for like, how many hours do you want to work? When do you want to work? Where do you want to work? Like design that first. What's important to you first? Is it taking kids to school, or is it running, or like what is important to you first, and doing that first, and then designing your business around that. And that will help you define, do you have a course or do you have a membership? That'll help you define like how many face hours do you have? Like there's just so much that you have to get right about that, but you just don't want to be unintentionally creating this like hustle business that you hate just to make money. Like money is not enough. It's really not.
My take on that, I think starting off, you got to do some hustle, right? Or no, you don't have to. Like it can help if you do some hustle starting off. What'll happen with most people, in my experience, is they'll hit that revenue goal where kind of it gets, after that, you get less happy each time. It's kind of like, let's say if you're struggling financially, okay, it's a big thing, let's say you're making $100,000 a year now. Okay. $200,000 a year. Okay. That's great. Above that, it's kind of like, it doesn't matter too much more in my take. It's like the difference between, like, I feel the difference between, say, you're making 50,000 and 200,000 is huge, but between like 200,000 and 300,000, like you just don't get too much happier. That's when the other sort of stuff comes in. And I had a situation myself. I was able to get my business 100% hands off. So it was running 100% without me. I got depressed. What was I going to do with my, and also me, I got no family, no partner, it's like, what am I going to do with my life? And I'm not saying trap yourself into being one-on-one, but you can do what you've done, Tony, and be strategic. Hey, it runs without me, but I'm going to do this because it makes me happy. I mean, if I make a few dollars, great, but I'm doing it because it makes me happy. So I love that. I want to break down that original story because there's some really cool things going on. And it's actually very similar to my first course as well. So you started website. You probably didn't even need the website, right? Like, what did you have on that website?
I'm trying to remember. I think all I had on there, Jono, was just the actual like landing page where it gave them a bit of information about it, where they could sign up. But I didn't have a platform, like a course platform.
Yeah.
It was all delivered through email. So it was literally just the landing page I had on there.
And your email, you use MailChimp? Active Campaign, who did you use?
I actually used Entreport.
Gotcha.
I started to use MailChimp and very quickly ran into some of the MailChimp applications. I'm sure that I hate them. I was trying to be polite. You can say they're crap, but I was trying to be polite. And so I decided to go with Entreport, which back then I was kind of an earlier user of Entreport. Now, Active Campaign wasn't really a thing. Now we still use Entreport and love it, but if I would have had my time again, then I probably would have gone Active Campaign if it existed and was up and running.
What year was this, out of curiosity, your first
one? That's a great question. I always forget that. It was like, 2014 from memory.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was like around then anyway.
Same as me, exactly the same time I launched my first. So yeah, well, because even looking at that, it's like with Entreport, you wouldn't have you could have done the landing page on that, and even now with Active Campaign, you can do the landing you can do the landing page on there. So it's kind of like your first online course you could have done with literally, maybe not MailChimp, not the free version anyway, but for like couple 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a month with Active Campaign or something similar, that's all you need there. And I think that's amazing there. And I think it's also good because it's like, so let's go. And then there was 300 people off the bat. So it's kind of like, you sold ugly in a word. I think a lot of course creators are like, all right, let me put together, the prettiest landing page and all these webinars and these good slides and these fancy videos, and then it doesn't kind of sell. You've sold ugly. It's like, all right, I've literally got a landing page and I sold 300. And I think that's how you're onto something. Yeah. It's like, I sold 300 with bare minimum. Imagine if I actually put some effort, not saying you didn't put effort into it, but you know what I mean? If I put more effort into it, look what could have happened. So I think that's amazing there. Question when you switched over to video, how did you start delivering the videos?
Vimeo, and sent them the link in the email.
There we go. Yeah.
It was like very low tech.
100%. Well, the reason I say that, so my first course was an ebook, right? Or in other words, a Microsoft Word document saved as a PDF, right? With unlisted YouTube videos linked in there, which is very similar to what you did. And to be fair, I think the tech was different then. I don't think there was as easy as it is now to, get a free version of Newsendler or Teachable, it's changed. Well, I don't know. What's your take?
Well, I agree with you. Like, I do feel like it was kind of simple because you had less options.
Yeah.
I feel like now it gets complicated because there's so many options, but I think that people have got to get out of their head and stop that procrastination and overthinking and just choose something. Like, if it sucks and it's not great, change it down the track. But sitting there and spending, a million hours trying to decide, should I go Kajabi or Newsendler or Access Alley or, or like, it's not great. And the same as, should I go Active Campaign or Entreport? Like, it may matter longer term, but what's going to get you more progress now is actually just doing something rather than sitting there trying to figure all of that out, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. I think you hit nail on the head. We're on the start. It doesn't matter because it's kind of like, especially if you got one course, like if you got one course, any of them will do the job, Okay, it's a bit different if now you're integrating different things and you got multiple courses. Okay, then it becomes a bit more of an issue. But starting off, 100%. And I'll go deeper on that. One of the first really good courses I did was by, Digital Marketer? Do you know who they are? Yeah, Digital Marketer. Did their email marketing course, right? $5,000 paid for it back in those 2014 or something, right? What platform do you think they used?
No idea, but probably
Dropbox link with videos, but it was sick. Like I got a link. It was, unit 1, unit 2. It was easy. I'm like, all right, let me open folder 1. Okay, here's the first video I watched. Okay, here are the templates in here. Great. In folder 2, it was sick. It had nothing to do with the course. It was really good just for that. So I think that's cool. So how did you get 300 people? Did you have a big network in your personal presence, or
like the same as what any person would have on their Facebook as just like regular friends? Now that we're business owners, we tend to have business contacts and stuff on Facebook as well. But back then it was literally just personal friends. But I literally promoted it on my own personal Facebook. And when I say promoted it, like we're not talking hardcore. I'm like, hey, here's my blog. And then a whole bunch of people was like, this is really cool. And then I was like, hey, I'm running like a course to help you do the same thing as I did in my blog. And like, people commented, and then I did the same on LinkedIn. Like that was literally it. There was nothing else to it. I think the secret in how I got so many people, and it's something that I think a lot of people don't do today because they're looking for like the quick and easy option. But I think sometimes the quick and easy options aren't as quick and easy as you think. And this is still really powerful, but it was reaching out one-on-one. So basically everybody that commented, I then started a DM with them and I, chatted with them, not heaps, but I chatted with them and said like, hey, I'd really love for you to get into this. And most people, I don't know if it was most, but a lot of people said yes. And, back then it was easier to DM. Like I did get shut down by Facebook, but they weren't as fussy as what they are now. So now you have to be a bit more strategic with how you do your outreach. But I think that those unscalable conversations are still so powerful, particularly when you're starting out. Like you can spend months trying to grow your email list, or you can spend, a bunch of money trying to automate things and all of this stuff, or you can just have some of these unscalable conversations to kick things off and get moving. And once you've got that momentum and you've got, testimonials and you've got raving fans that you can use to leverage, that's when you can kind of take it to the next stage and start to do things a little bit less organically.
Love it. That's some of the best advice I've ever heard. One of my favorite quotes, Toni, I can't remember who said this, but it's probably Russell Brunson or one of those people anyway, where it's like everyone wants to make money while they sleep, but before you do that, you need to make money while you're awake. And I think that summarizes that there. Like, don't get me wrong, in an ideal world, I'm sure everyone would love to have this automated funnel where you make a Facebook post, someone opts in, they watch an automated webinar, they get 3 or 4, and that's fine. But to do that from the start is so hard because you don't know what people want, and the only way to really know is when I started, I was more a phone call guy. It was more like, right, give me a number, give me a call. But it's the same sort of thing as DM. It's just having that conversation. Because I feel that's how you learn what's scalable. Because it's like, in my experience anyway, like I would get on a phone call with someone. Right. What do you do? Here's the course. Do you want to buy it? I was a bit more strategic than that, but in a nutshell. And if they said no, well, why not? Well, because of this reason here. Great. Go and add that to the course, the next person. And then there's only so many no's I could sort of get before I'm like, whatever this person wants, it's in the course. And then once I had that conversation, it's like, well, I know what people want. Now I can put that on the landing page. Now I can put that on the email. Now it can be scalable there. So I think that's really good advice. And I think it's like, because there's kind of like, there's always the dream, hey, make money on and here's a good point. That's what Toni does. She works 10 hours a week and makes $1 million. That's the dream life, right? But she didn't do it off the bat. She started off by making Facebook posts and sending a heap of DMs one-on-one. Did you want to?
Can I tell you? Well, no, I was just going to say though, Jono, that's how I started. But can I tell you that, and this wasn't an intentional strategy, it was just something that happened. But not that long ago, I had $100,000 month. And guess what I did?
DMs?
I made a personal post on my Facebook. I sent DMs in follow-ups, and I sent one email.
There we go.
And so what I did 8 years ago versus what I did today, nothing changed and it still worked. Now, yes, I was selling a high ticket product, and yes, on my personal Facebook, I have a number of my ideal clients hanging out, but I didn't have that in the beginning, but that same strategy, you don't have to get overly sophisticated. I didn't have a sales page for that launch. I had a PDF that I sent via DM, and this was last year. This is not, because you just can't sometimes replicate the power of like a dirty, messy launch and just giving people what they want. If you give them what they want, it doesn't matter the mechanism for how you deliver it. Like no one's going like, oh, I want to get that course because it's on New Zenly, or I want to get that course because it's on, or I want to join that membership because it's on Kajabi. Nobody cares. They care about, they've got a problem, you've got a solution. They want you to help them get to their ideal state. Like they don't actually care how the sausage is made. They just want to eat the sausage, right? And so we got to stop getting hung up on having these like perfect landing pages and these perfectly formatted courses. Like I'm not saying put rubbish out there in the world either, but sometimes it's just better to focus on like, how can I give people what they want and how can I get them results, and starting from there and each time and evolving it.
100%. And it's like, I think especially for, or either way, but especially for someone starting off, it's like, do the messy launch first, and now you've got some money coming in. Okay, you've probably got some more time on your hands now. If you've got a job as well, great, quit that job, and now you've got all this time on your hands, or even if it wasn't that, okay, great, you got more money coming in, maybe you hire a cleaner, maybe send whatever it may be, right? You've got time back, and then you can focus on these things, but like, get some of that success first. So awesome. Right. Super motivational there, Toni. Let's maybe do some tips now. So let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, all right, all well and good for you, Toni. Great that you made 300, people off the bat, and great that you make $1 million a year. But how do I do it? What's your number? Either what's your number one tip, or if someone wants to emulate what you've done, what's the first thing is obviously sign up for your membership, and we'll put all the links in the show notes. Exactly. Yep. And then after they've done that, what's the next thing they need to do to kind of emulate your success?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's overcomplicating things, Jono. I think it's a lot of what we just talked about. Like, everybody gets sick to death of hearing about ideal client avatar and niching down. Like, I get it. I'm not going to go on a rant about that. Like, I'm sure everybody in your community has heard it a million times, but you just really need to know like who you're helping and what their big problem is. Because if you can provide a solution to that problem, like that's the starting point. I see so many people start by creating a course outline, or start by building a membership and like, spending hours thinking about like the detail of what's inside their membership, and they don't spend enough time actually really understanding who they can help and what they need help with. So that's the first thing, which sounds, stupid, but it really is that. And then the second thing is just taking imperfect action. Like, we've talked about it a lot in this episode, and that wasn't what we, set out to talk about, but, it's doing things badly, but getting them done. You're going to either have two outcomes. You're either going to win or you're going to learn, right? Like you're either going to have a really successful launch or whatever it is that you're doing, or you're going to learn exactly what went wrong. And I can promise you that learning it in practice versus theory, doing like a bunch of courses yourself or joining a bunch of memberships yourself and like doing it and just taking that imperfect action is going to trump, any time spending hours and hours and hours studying. Like I always say, like, by the way, I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. I'm always doing courses and joining memberships and stuff myself because I geek out on that stuff. But you can't forget that when you're learning, you're not earning, right? So you've got to sometimes get out of that learner stage and just take that imperfect action and make it happen.
Love it. Such good points. I feel if someone just followed those two things for a year, they would be in a completely different situation they are now. And I'll piggyback off those a little bit. I love just that. Who do you help and what do you help them with? Because I feel if you don't have that, nothing else really matters. And this is a little test I do when I speak to course creators, and I'll say, right, tell me about business. What do you do? I can tell if they're going to be sick, or how soon it will be when they're going to be successful based on the way they answer that. If they answer it student or customer first, they can usually be pretty successful very quick. If they're like, hey, look, I work with, women that want to run their own business and they're super short, they're super short on time. Here are the mistakes they make. They always make these same mistakes. And if they just did this, then they'd be better, So that's why I've put this. If they answer it like that, I'm like, okay, this person's going to be successful. They just need the marketing tools, right? If they answer it the other way, hey, I've got this course. It's amazing. It teaches this, it teaches it. I'm like, okay, let's go back a step though. Who's it for? So I love that there. And yeah, I love imperfect action. It's like, I think a simple way to explain it, let's say you've got two people, let's say Toni and myself, and I want everything to be perfect. So I spend a year creating my course, which isn't unusual. I know heaps of people, I'm not saying it's right, but I know a heap of people that have spent a year creating that course, right? Because they want it to be perfect. Say that's what I do. On the flip side, Toni does it in, let's even call it 3 months. All right. And it's not great. It's okay. But it's not great. Cool. She got a few people, she learned from it. So she does another one in 3 months' time. It's even better. Then another one in 3 months' time, another one in 3 months' time. Now, a year later, I'm launching my first course, which I want to be perfect, and it's still not going to be perfect. Toni's gone through it 4 times. Her course is going to be way better than mine just because she took perfect action. So love that there. Toni, I'd like to hear a little bit about your membership on a few different sides of things. I'm curious about the money side of things. So I know one of your specialty is, it's not I know you've got a high ticket and a low ticket one, but I'm curious on both of those. Let us know a little bit about how they work. To give yourself a bit of a plug, and if anyone's listening, great. But also just for the business model, I'm curious of, okay, how much does she charge? How many people in there? What do they get? Yada, yada, yada. So let us know a little bit about your memberships.
Yeah, for sure. So I've got one called the 5-minute membership. And so the reason it's called the 5-minute membership, it's a 5-minute lesson and a 5-minute action 5 days a week.
That's
and the
sick.
Goal is to help, busy membership owners get to 5-figure months. So, had to go with a lot of fives. That's the goal. And it's, I'm really excited actually. We've just completely revamped it. It got unruly because you can imagine delivering 5-minute lessons, 5 times a week is a lot. So we've gone back and really done a refresh on it. And so we're relaunching it at $97 a month. So we're really excited about that. It was a little bit less than that before, but what the upgrades we've added, I honestly think it's probably worth, probably 5 times that.
I'll jump in a sec here. What I like about that is the 5 minutes, because I think what in today's society, info isn't as valuable as it used to be. It's kind of like info's everywhere, right? And like, I'm not sure what you're covering there, but I'm somewhat confident I could maybe YouTube a lot of it or Google a lot of it if I really wanted to. However, for me to Google and YouTube, I'd probably spend hours trying to find this info, right? What I think is more valuable than info now is time. If you can say, hey, here's all this stuff out, go and spend a couple of hours a day doing it yourself, and I'll show it to you in 5 minutes. I'm going to take that quicker one, or if someone's like, he's an hour lesson a day and Toni's is 5 a day, I'm going to go with Toni's. I can actually do it. And I might even pay more for it than that. So I think that's a good message for everyone listening. Value doesn't have to be the info. Value can be in the time that you save.
Exactly. And that was the catalyst for us creating it, because what we found, and, block your ears, course creators, because I do love you and I am not anti-course, but what we found is so many of our customers would start a course and then never finish the course because they're busy. So they would start with great intentions and they would buy a $2,000 course, and then they would, start it, and then they would never get through it because it became really overwhelming and it wasn't super action oriented. So even if they got through to the end of the course, they had learned a bunch of theory, but they haven't implemented anything. And so that's why, it's not easy for me to get things down into 5-minute chunks. But the reason that I do it is literally the lesson goes for 5 minutes. And at the end of the lesson, I tell you, now go and do this. And that task, if you're not dilly-dallying, should not take you any more than 5 minutes. And so we focus on making a tweak a week. So, you join us in 52 weeks, you will have made 52 tweaks to your business and literally only spending less than an hour a week to make those tweaks. And whether you binge watch and do them all in an hour or you do 5 minutes a day, it's up to you, but it's about making it simple and making it really action oriented. And our people aren't complete newbies. We don't have to explain they've heard of customer avatar before, or they've heard of lead magnets before. So we just really get into like, here's how you would create an awesome lead magnet. Like, but like,
Yeah.
step one, do this. Now go do that thing, not get hung up on learning in theory, you know, how to create the best lead magnet in the world. It's like, actually, let's get it done. So
Love that. Can I ask, you don't have to answer this. Can I ask how many members you have in that $100 a month?
yeah, so we've got, well, I don't even know right now, but we've got a couple of hundred, you know, at the moment.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like it's definitely getting up there. And to be honest, we've taken a back seat from it because we wanted to take this time to refresh and restart everything, because it was getting a bit, things that I hate in memberships is where you can't find everything you want, and we're starting to fall victim to that. So I'm pretty excited about our relaunch and, you know, getting it out there, because I think what's really cool about it is, like, we are just changing so many people's businesses and lives with it. And to do even more people, that's like going to be incredible.
Love it. Okay. Your high ticket membership. This is the one I'm even more interested in. What's the price point? What do we get?
Yeah. So Scale Society, it is $9.97 a month at the moment, which honestly, my coach continually tells me how grossly undervalued it is. So we will see how long it stays at that price point. But yeah, so basically how that works and why it takes a lot of my time is we work very closely and intimately with a small number of people, and they all have existing memberships and or courses, and they are looking to scale them without sacrifice. So our goal is to help them double their revenue and halve their working hours. And so we go through and really break down, you know, how to attract, convert and retain in a way that helps them scale without sacrifice. So it involves, I call it an experience, because whilst it's a membership, it's a monthly recurring investment. It is also, it's also like a combination. Like, I didn't just want a mastermind, because sometimes when you just have a mastermind, there's a lot of like chatting, but not a lot of, I guess, implementation or learning. We didn't want to have it as just teaching, because no one just wants to learn more information. We didn't want to have it just as coaching. So it's really encompasses masterminding, coaching, masterminding, coaching, hot seats. We do some one-on-one with them, like they get strategy sessions with us and momentum sessions with us. What else am I forgetting? We do a scale session each week where we're actually teaching them a technique to scale, but we don't just teach them, we actually give them the templates, give them feedback and review on their stuff. So yeah, it's really, like, honestly, it's incredible. I love it. I pinch myself every day because I work with literally the best people. But yeah, it's pretty intense. Like, we do 4 calls a week with those folks. They don't have to come to all 4, but to cover different time zones and all those sorts of things. Plus we do a quarterly retreat intensive virtually with them. So yeah.
Is it always virtual, even non-COVID times? Would it be?
Yeah, so we've only launched it since COVID started. I have mixed feelings on whether or not it would be virtual, because I love catching up with people in real life. And pre-COVID times, we did actually have an in-person retreat booked that we had to cancel. But I also appreciate, as a busy business owner, I don't necessarily want to get on the plane every quarter to travel potentially to the other side of the world for 2 or 3 days to travel back. And so I have mixed feelings. I think if we did do it in person, it would maybe be like once a year, because I know myself, I have said there's a mastermind in the US that I have considered being a part of for probably 4 or 5 years. And instead of investing in that mastermind, I do a one-on-one with that coach every year. It's the same financial investment for 1 day one-on-one versus the mastermind. But I just don't have the desire to travel to the US 4 times a year. That just doesn't light me up. Like, I love traveling, but not to the same place, to sit there. That just doesn't light me up. So
good point. I'm just thinking I'm torn, right? Because I'm much a face-to-face person. If it was Australia, I would, so I've signed up to 12-month masterminds before in Australia, in Victoria, right, Melbourne, where it was, I think maybe even 4 or 5 days every 12 weeks. It was sick. It was like, because Sydney to Melbourne, it's an hour flight,
So
I think
you're right. If it was Australia, I would totally be down personally, but it's really hard.
Yeah, US.
We're so far from everything.
I still would, I still would. If I was, it's kind of like, I mean, it depends on the thing. I would do it. If I was all in on the membership, I'd be like as a student, I'd be like, you know what? I would go to America 4 times a year, but I would have to be all in.
Yeah.
It's like if it's a half kind of one, maybe not. So that makes sense. 997. And is that a month to month thing? Is it a minimum sort of term someone signs up? How does that one work there? The 997.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. It's a minimum of 12 months for that one.
Gotcha.
2 reasons. One is that scaling takes time. Like I could tell you tomorrow, go do this one thing, and it would make a lot more money, but it's not necessarily going to be sustainable. Like I need to pull apart your entire business and look at it from all angles. And quite frankly, you've probably got some foundational things broken that we have to fix before we can, really scale it. So it's a minimum 12-month commitment for that reason. But also we talked about this before we went live on this chat. Like I'm not somebody that wants to really sell and hustle. Like I want you to be all in. Like I want you to be like, I want to work with Toni because I know she can change my business. I know she can change my life. And I feel like you committing for 12 months is saying that. And if you're not ready to do that's okay with me. I'm not judging you for that. But I want you, when you choose to work with me at that level, like I want you to be all in. I don't want you to be sort of considering like, oh, should I or shouldn't I? And maybe I'll just try it for a month or 2. Like if you're there, you're not ready to work with me. And I hope that doesn't sound arrogant, but that's
no,
how
sure.
I want people to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of questions with that. So numbers wise, I'm doing the math in my head. Do you have like 40, 50 people on that package?
Not yet. The additional revenue is from another membership that we had increased down, so that's why the numbers don't add up. So
I was going to say, I'm impressed if there's 40, 50 on that. How much in that membership?
Yeah, no, we're small now. Like we only launched recently. We launched it September last year, so we're small now. But the idea is to build that up to 30. Year. I ideally look, I'm not somebody that I'm a numbers person, but I also like to feel like if it doesn't feel right, I'm happy to go try and make those numbers somewhere else in my business. That doesn't feel right, but the goal is to take it to 30 this year, and then we're going to reestablish them, because I would rather double or triple the price and keep that a really small, intimate group where everybody actually knows each other, and we build this really amazing community of people supporting one another in their businesses, only selecting the right people at the right level. That's more important to me than having big. And I have this debate with my coach all of the time, because he's like, but you could make so many more sales. And I'm like, yeah, I literally, when I opened the doors, I only approved, because people had to apply for this. I only approved 60% of people who applied, because I wanted to keep the right caliber of people together. I wanted them to fit the culture. There was certain, benchmarks they had to make financially to be in it. Like there was a lot of criteria that went into choosing, because for me, it's about more than just the money. If I wanted to just have money, I could have had that membership at 100 by now, but it's not, it wouldn't have lit me up. It wouldn't have been the right people. It would have meant more hustling on my side, because I would have more people to juggle, and that's not what I want. So we'll see, maybe 50, but 30 for now is kind of the goal, because I don't want it to be massive.
Yeah, love it.
Well, and sorry, the other thing that probably doesn't add up for you as well, Jono, is all my numbers are US dollars. So in Australian pesos, that's like $1 gazillion as well. So.
Love it. So, okay, that's a good question. So do you know how much you make Australian dollars per year?
That's the million. So it's $1 million Aussie.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So that's why it nothing.
Gotcha. No, because
anyone that's making $1 million in the US, that's like 10 times as much.
No, well, that's because it's the same. I work in Australian dollars as well, mainly with my bank account, because it sounds better, but then it obviously doesn't always relate with US. So Okay, the signal's a bit jumpy, but that's right because we're coming to the end anyway. There's just a couple questions I like to finish off with, Toni. This one will be an interesting one. So this is the course creator community. One of the most common questions we get is around course platforms. I think you're in the same boat as me, where for someone starting off, it doesn't really matter. Pick one and go. But in saying that, I'm curious to what your platform of choice is. What do you use, Toni?
We have two different ones. Our favorite one is Searchy, which we just transitioned to recently. And we love it just because it's so easy to use and everything's transcribed and everything's searchable. We love it. But it doesn't yet, because they're still adding more things to it, it doesn't yet have enough bells and whistles. So that's what we use for our Scale Society. It doesn't yet have enough bells and whistles to do everything we want it to do for the 5-minute business. So for the 5-minute business, we use Access Alley because it's just got so much progress tracking functionality and tagging functionality. And like, it's just next level. And I think Access Alley, in my opinion, is gold standard, but it's more expensive than most and it's more techie than most. So, I recommend that if you're willing to do the techie side of things. But but I love Searchy the most, but it doesn't quite check all the boxes for everything.
Interesting. Quick question. Access Alley. I've heard of it, but I'm not over familiar. Is that focused on membership sites?
No, I think
Courses
it's actually, I think it's actually, I don't know if it's more courses or more memberships, but it definitely started off more courses. So it does give you more membership options. Like, a lot of people use Kajabi for their memberships, but that's more built for courses. And so they have to sort of, try and make it work for memberships, whereas Access Alley is more fluid. But I think, honestly, Access Alley is one of the most incredible platforms you'll see, but it is just, like, my husband is an incredible tech guy, and I remember him trying to set it up initially and he was pulling his hair out. And the training courses that they have, or the help is amazing, but typical man, sorry, Jono, didn't want to read the instructions or listen to the videos, just wanted to jump straight in and do it. And it's not as intuitive as like a Searchy or a Kajabi or a New Zenlia. It's not as intuitive, but the payoff is that you can have it so customized. Like, what you can build in Access Alley is like next level and beautiful and so intuitive from a student perspective. Just from a setting up perspective, it's a bit more labor intensive.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I'm obviously more a course guy. I've got memberships as well, but it's kind of like I use my course software and then I'm like, how could I also use this as a membership? So
most people do.
Yeah. So, and then Searchy, interesting. So I asked this question to everyone, right? For years. Never heard Searchy before, except for the guest that just came on just before you. Do you know Bobby Klink? Do you know who he is? Well,
I know who he is. I don't know him personally, but we've been in similar circles. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, because he's in the kind of Amy Porterfield circle. He does a lot of work there. And Searchy is Stu McLaren's software, I believe.
It is. Yeah.
So if you listen to this on the podcast, you probably just heard, and you listened last week, you probably heard Bobby say the same thing. But yeah, so he said the same thing as you. He's kind of like, hey, it's a new one. It's constantly getting better. He recommended it as well for those same reasons, but he's like, it's not quite ready for everything yet, but it may be. So,
and I think, like, honestly, Jono, my opinion would be, for the vast majority of course creators and membership creators, it will do everything you need. I think what we have with the 5-minute business is because it is like so many lessons and so many, like, it's quite a complex membership. Like, I think for the vast majority of people in your audience, like, what Searchy could do now would check enough boxes. And they're literally adding stuff every couple of weeks. There's a new thing that they're rolling out.
There we go. I might have to. You got an affiliate link? You want me to put that in the?
I do have an affiliate link, but I promote it even without the affiliate link.
I'll put. Give me your link and I'll put it in the show notes. Okay. Next question, Toni, is around mentors. So you've mentioned a couple of times you've got a coach. You're a mentor for plenty of women out there. I'm curious to hear who your biggest mentors have been, and if you could answer this in a few different ways. If you could give us a paid mentor, so someone that you've paid money to, their course, their membership, their coaching, whatever it is, an unpaid mentor, someone that you've never paid, but you listen to their podcast or follow them on social or whatever it may be, and then a book. that you recommend every person should read if they want to be successful in the online business space? So mentors, paid, unpaid, and book.
Okay, mentors paid. Stu McLaren is absolutely my number one. Like, he's the membership guy. Like, I am memberships, but I am not trying to be Stu. Like, he and I actually had this conversation. Like, we're very different, and how we teach and what we teach is very different, even though we are both memberships. But I learned so much from him, and not just about memberships. Like, he and I have worked one-on-one quite a few times, and whilst he leads with memberships, like, he is just an incredibly intelligent man and knows so much about business and online business, and just has a beautiful way of looking at things and thinking about things differently. And he's just a wonderful person as well. So there's so many others I could mention. And if you're listening, it's not that I don't love you, but Jono made me one. Stu would be my one paid person. Unpaid, that's a really interesting question. I think, is it okay if I have like bought one of their programs, but it's like periphery? I haven't really with them.
You haven't done their major one. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
You're going to buy someone's $7.
I know. I'm trying to think of who I've never like given a cent to, and not because there's nobody I listen to, but I always go, oh, they're really cool, I'm going to work with them more. But I would say Jesse Itzla. So Jesse, if you're a woman, you'll know Jesse because he's married to Sarah Blakely, who was the founder of Spanx. And if you're a man, you'll know, I'm generalizing here, you'll know Jesse because he started a jet company that got sold to NetJets and stuff. And he wrote an NBA, I don't know, I can tell I'm the girl, I'm way more into the space. He wrote an NBA song that became a bestseller song for the NBA. And he invented Zico coconut water and sold that to Coca-Cola. So that's Jesse. But what I love about Jesse, and he and I have chatted one-on-one, and he didn't take a cent from me for that. He is so living in integrity with living your life first and then having your business second. And he's just such a great role model for that. And he does all sorts of crazy things. He also invented a thing called 29029, which you can Google, but basically it's summiting the height of Everest, and you don't do it on Everest, you do it on a smaller mountain. And Stu and myself and a whole bunch of other people are doing that later this year, to go and do like Jesse's challenge, because he does all of these crazy challenges, but he just really inspires me. And this isn't my book answer, but he's got a really great book called Living with a Seal, which is it's kind of really like mindset related, and so I really respect him as an entrepreneur, but I also respect him for what he's done outside of his entrepreneurial enterprises.
Awesome. Book.
So this is probably going to be a very weird choice because you said like that's helped your online business, but the book, and I actually had it on my desk up until yesterday. I'm kind of sad that it's not here, so I can't wave it in your face. But Jack Canfield, I think now called The Success Principles, but the copy I've got is so old. It was called How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be, or something like that. And that book, I read it when I was, late teens, early 20s. And you're going to beat me to it, Jono. You've got it.
That's the one.
Yeah. See, mine is mine's like a really old, dodgy cover. So it's like red and it's got a lot of gold writing and stuff. So you've got the upgraded version. Mine's so old, the pages are yellow. But yeah, I read that when I was like 18 or 19. And I tell you what, Jono, I literally reread it on I don't have like, I reread it on, the 3rd of February every year or anything, but I regularly go back to it. But the number of times, like I feel like at least once a week when I'm coaching somebody or I'm talking about something or giving an example, I would reference something back in that book. And it's the small things like, yesterday I was coaching somebody around the power of just asking. We're always so afraid of getting rejected and getting no's, but the reality is if you don't ask, you're never going to get
the answer's no. If you don't ask, the answer's no anyway. So it's like, you may as well ask.
Exactly. And if you ask and the answer is no, well, you're in no worse position than what you were before you asked. So why not ask? And so there's just really powerful concepts that are not specific to business or online business, but I think are so applicable to all areas of your life, including business. And I rave about that book. And I always joke, I feel like it was the first like personal development book that I read that maybe other people read it and they're a bit like underwhelmed because I talk it up so much. But for me, that book was so pivotal, and I don't think I'd be where I am now if it wasn't for that book.
I agree. I think it's definitely one of the best books I've ever read. It's hard because there's so many good books, different reasons, but I'm like you. I think that book and Think and Grow Rich are the two that I read every year. I'll read it at least once. And I'll tell you a quick story with Jack Canfield. So my first online business was in my first business was a personal trainer. All right. My first business was a personal trainer, and my first online business was helping other personal trainers get better at business, essentially. And I went to this convention in the USA, the biggest fitness business convention in the USA. And the keynote speaker was Jack Canfield. I didn't know who he was at the time. I was only following fitness people, I'm like, who's this Jack Canfield guy? Do I even want to go to the keynote? And I heard it, and it was like the most transformational thing ever. He was speaking about, have you heard him do the thing with the word try? Have you heard him pick up the pen?
You know what? I didn't see Jack do that, but I've seen Tony Robbins do that, and it's powerful, right?
Yeah. It changed my whole life. I removed the word try from my vocabulary after that. And I was like, this guy's sick, And then he did another talk straight after, watch that. And then I'm going to Google this guy. And I'm like, this guy was in The Secret. This guy's actually a big name, I can't believe I just, thought he was a nobody and, bought his book. And yeah, agree 100%. It's one of the best books I've ever read. Hey, we're a bit short on time, Toni, so we'll start to wrap up. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are like, Toni's awesome. I want to connect with her. I want to follow her. Where's the best place to connect with you socially, Toni? Not LinkedIn, I know, because I tried to connect. And I think you still got your corporate job on there. So.
Not LinkedIn. Sorry. I haven't been on LinkedIn in I think about 5 years, so apologies. Yeah. Please don't go on LinkedIn. Probably Insta is where I hang out the most. So you can find me Toni Bache on Insta, or same on Facebook, but I probably spend more time on Insta.
Awesome. All right. That's pretty much it for me. Is there anything I should have asked you but forgot to, or anything you want to finish us off with?
No, just super grateful to have had the chance to chat with you. It's been fun.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for your time, Toni.